The long-anticipated meeting is about to occur. Jacob, who has bided his time for so many years in Haran, living under very difficult circumstances, finally turns himself around with his flocks and with his wives and his children and begins the long, arduous trek back, not just to his home, but to confront, and this is far more important than going home for him, to confront his past. And so Jacob, after a very long trek and a very long journey, finally arrives really at the doorstep of his brother Esau. And on the eve of that meeting, Jacob sends a messenger to Esau, and he very carefully delineates how this messenger is to address his brother, who, you will remember, the last time that there was any whiff of an encounter between the two of them, Esau swore to murder Jacob. So Jacob is very deliberate and careful when he tells his servant, "Tell my lord, Esau, that his servant, namely me, Jacob, has come back." Jacob takes the point of view that he will be subservient to his brother, that he will lay himself bare before the claws that could otherwise rip him apart. And that might be the total reason why Jacob is being so effusive in his trying to calm down Esau's ire. But it may be more than that too. It could be that Jacob has genuinely learned a very powerful lesson about his place in the universe, and that his ego is not so strong that it will empower every movement, dictate every word that he utters. Jacob truly has grown over these past years, and especially with this last encounter with his angel. Jacob truly is a different human being. To witness, he has a new name, doesn't he? He is the one that wrestles with angels and wins. So Jacob tells this messenger to deliver this message to Esau, and furthermore he says, "Garti, I lived elsewhere. I lived under very wretched conditions, and I was a stranger. I was a stranger in a foreign land who lived not just a difficult life, but one that was so oppressive it nearly tore me apart." And it is so, isn't it? So many of those awful things that transpired over all of the years that Jacob lived with this man that wanted to milk him for everything that he was worth and then destroy him ultimately. Jacob not only survived, but he maintained himself. The rabbis go to great pains to point out that the word Garti, I lived, I sojourned, is equivalent to 613, as if to say, almost innocuously, I've been true to myself. I've maintained my inner core, my soul is still whole. Despite what I've gone through, I have maintained myself. There are two very powerful, almost critical lessons that emerge from this week's Torah reading, from the personage of Jacob. The first is that we should change with our environment. We should allow ourselves to grow with the things that occur to us, even terrible, awful things that happen to us, as in the case of Jacob, as in the case of all people, should be allowed to go into our inner self and allowed to change our world view. The way that we peer at the world is usually through the eyes of selfishness, that the world revolves around me. And if we can allow the terrible things that happen to us to allow us to question the basic premise, we can experience great and wondrous growth. And the second point that is worthy of note that is shown by Jacob's personage is that we should always maintain a thoughtful, watchful guard over our soul as opposed to our self. Our self needs to grow from pain, from experience. Our soul, God-given, is always pure, and we need to make sure that we maintain it that way, that we guard it through life, knowing what is truly real and what is truly truth. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom.